Hey guys, Scarlett here. I hope you all are doing well. So I have a video for you guys today all about tarot journals and how to start your own. And for my returning subscribers, welcome back. I love you guys. And for anyone new here, welcome. I post weekly videos about tarot, paganism, and magic. So let's jump right into talking about tarot journals. And right off the bat, I want to mention that this video is in collaboration with Benebell, and she is a fellow YouTuber as well as an author. She wrote this book, Holistic Tarot, which is a giant book. It is wonderful. I would definitely recommend it as a resource for any fellow tarot lovers out there. And we are both creating videos about tarot journals. So I will link her corresponding video down below. So definitely check that out. And I also recently interviewed her for my most recent Cosmic Keys podcast interview. So I will link that down below in the description as well. So today we're talking about tarot journals. And with tarot study, I think it really does help to have a journal that you can return to contain both the knowledge that you've learned over time about the card meanings and things like that, and also as a record for the various readings that you are doing. And people do this in a lot of different ways. Some people might have a grimoire, which is a larger kind of magical book. And for them, they might have a section which is about tarot studies, while others might have separate books that are just about their own tarot journey. So it is up to you if you already have a grimoire, if you want to incorporate a tarot section, or if you want to just kind of start a new journal to record all of this great tarot information. So that's one thing to consider. And also keep in mind that even though I'm going to talk about different sections you can include in a tarot journal, this is just my opinion, and your tarot journal should reflect your own journey. So definitely keep that in mind. So jumping into it, in my view, you can divide a tarot journal between two kind of big giant sections. On the one hand, you have a tarot study guide, and that's going to be things that involves, maybe correspondence tables, the meanings of the cards, things like that, that information zone. And then you would have another giant section that would be kind of more your readings diary, where you could record the various spreads and readings that you do and your impressions of those readings. So I have a big treat for you because Benebell and I have a giant downloadable tarot study guide and readings diary for you guys for free. And this is really huge. I mean, the tarot study guide is like around 500 pages and the readings diary is about 400 pages. So you can print these two giant PDFs and you can bind them as well as either two separate journals or as one big journal if you would like. And we work together in thinking about what pieces of information to include, which sections should include for these two PDFs, and we really hope that you enjoy them because we love to give back to you guys, to give back to the community. So definitely check that link down below for those two PDF downloads. So going back to the tarot study guide. So some of the things that I would consider including in a tarot study guide, the first thing would be a reference table. And this reference table is kind of a one snapshot glance at tarot as a whole. It's meant to show various correspondences for each of the cards. So some things you could include would be various keywords for the cards. So if you imagine all the cards listed in one column and then a couple keywords for each of those cards listed next to it. So that way you can have a quick snapshot on all the cards and roughly those key meanings for those individual cards. You can also add certain columns for things like zodiac correspondences for the cards, or elemental correspondences, or even Hebrew letter correspondences for the cards. You can get pretty detailed and pretty complex with your correspondences, and you'll notice in the downloadable tarot study journal there are a lot of different correspondences we list for each card. But if you're a beginner, don't get overwhelmed. I think if you are brand new to tarot, it makes sense to just kind of have a very basic reference table to start out with the names of the cards all listed in one column and a couple keywords for each of the cards listed in another column. And then you can perhaps build on from there. So that would be the first big section I would include in your tarot journal. The next thing would be a much even larger section, and that's where you would leave a couple of pages for each card. And for each card, you're going to talk about various associations and feelings and themes and ideas about that particular card. One thing that I would also include for each card is a section on the key symbolism for that card. So for example, if we take the Fool here, right away you can see that there's some kind of key symbols in this image. We have the dog, we have the rose, we have the mountain. So writing down those symbols and then doing a little bit of research on what those symbols mean from a historical context, but also what that symbol might mean to you personally within your own life. And by doing that, it can kind of help jog your memory, especially if you are new to tarot and you have a good understanding of those symbols. When you see that Fool card, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I kind of can connect these symbols to the card's meaning, and I'll be able to remember it a bit easier. Another section I would include here is the historical evolution of each card. So when you look at some of the earlier decks like the Visconti Sforza and perhaps the Marseille deck, you can see that these tarot cards, these archetypes, have really transformed and changed quite a bit over time. And it's good to kind of think about that and consider how the evolution of these meanings might then change as well. So if you consider one of the earliest interpretations of the Fool from the Visconti Sforza deck, he looks like a beggar. It's clearly life is not working out very well for him. And then you can compare that to the Rider-Waite Fool, which is a bit more optimistic in tone. And then you can even compare that to a more modern or contemporary Fool card, like from the Wild Unknown deck perhaps. So having a little section where you can talk about your thoughts and ideas from the transformation of each card will help build your wider understanding of the card's meaning. And also, I think it's important to include a section here where you're describing your own personal connection to the card. And that could be as simple as how you personally feel when you view the card. It's a way to kind of work in your own intuitive sense into your own tarot understanding. And then also, you know, each card has its own meaning. So how is that card's meaning, or the themes and ideas around that card, how has that worked its way into your own life? Have there been specific events in your life that you might connect to those themes or ideas? So making sure that your tarot journal is for you. It's meant to be a personal record, not just a repository of information, in my opinion. Another great section to include would be different tarot spreads, right? Because there are a lot of different tarot spreads out there. So definitely having a section where you can write down tarot spreads as you learn them, or compile some of your favorite tarot spreads. That would be a really great thing to include. And for that, you might want to even kind of draw out what the spread looks like and what each card placement would represent. And you might even want to include a little section where you could write down what types of questions or what aspects of your life this particular spread would be useful for. So those are various sections that you can think about including for a tarot study section of your wider tarot journal. And when you think about the tarot journal as a whole, there's kind of another big section there. And in the PDFs, you'll notice we actually split it into two: the tarot study journal and then the readings diary. So this other section being a readings diary, the purpose is really to kind of track your readings so that you can really understand your own progress as a tarot reader. It also gives you a way to look back and see how the information you gleaned from your readings really played out in real life. So for example, if you do a spread at the beginning of the new year and you write all of that down, towards the end of the year, you can kind of look back at that spread and be like, oh wow, you know, this was really accurate, or this provided me a lot of good life lessons that I took into the year. So having that record is really useful for not just tracking your own practice of knowledge and study, but also seeing your readings in kind of this more holistic, wider view lens. And your readings diary, it can definitely include, if you think about for each reading, you might have the date of the reading listed, you might list what tarot deck you used, maybe even a spot for the name of the tarot spread, or even a little section to draw out the spread, so you can record that as well, and the placement of each card for the particular spread. You might want to include what your question was for that reading, or what aspect of your life that the reading was meant to provide guidance on. And of course, you probably want a place to write your own reflections about the reading as well. So those are kind of the two main sections: the tarot study aspect and then the readings diary aspect. Though I would want to mention too that, you know, when you're doing readings maybe on the fly, you might not always have your tarot journal or your grimoire with you. And one of the tricks I like to use is I have these little post-it notes, and these are called tarot takeaways. I mentioned them in a previous video, monthly favorites video, so I will link that down below. But these are little post-it notes that you can keep in your purse or something. So if you're doing tarot readings, you know, not at home, or a place where you don't have your tarot journal, you can quickly jot down that key information and either stick it into your tarot journal or re-record it there later. So that's just kind of a little tip for any tarot readers on the go. So I really hope you enjoyed this video about tarot journals and what you can include in your own tarot journal. And of course, tarot study is not something that, you know, ends upon the completion of a tarot study journal. It's meant to be a lifelong practice. And I do want to mention for you guys out there, if you are interested in taking your own tarot studies to the next level, I always recommend one-on-one study. So if that is maybe through locals in your area or someone else, traditionally the esoteric arts have been passed from mentor to pupil, and that's something I take pretty seriously, and I view as a wider tradition towards the esoteric arts as a whole. And if it is something you're interested in, you can check out the tarot lessons page on my website. I will link that down below if you are interested in doing one-on-one lessons with me. So tarot study is something that has really defined my life. It's become my career in a lot of ways. So I'm so happy I could share this video with you, and of course share the resource of these 2 downloadable PDFs. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate your viewership, and tell me about your own tarot journals. Do you have one? Is it part of your grimoire, or do you have a separate journal? I want to hear all about it, and I want to know what kind of sections do you include in your tarot journal. So definitely comment that down below, and I will talk to you later. Bye.